Guys, the real question is, do we fuck people's heads up with the truth, or do we continue to roll with the lies? That is the question that's ringing true in my mind, and it seems to be that there is no benefit in doing either. You know, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't in this new version of reality, where logic is admonished and we're expected to roll with these I guess you'd call them comfortable truths to maintain the peace in our lives, in our relationships, and in our dynamics with people. You know, there's always preconceived notions, and there's always the status quo or um, the stereotype of a situation and what you perceive it to be. Um, you know, if you do find ways to actually break rules to this matrix, it seems to also not matter. Doesn't matter how much sense you make or if you're really clever and creative. There's so many manipulative factors of control at play that they just have to remind you. The powers that be just have to do little subtle things to remind you that they have that control over your circumstances and your environment. It's all meant as a big head game just to remind you that you are not in control. You are living a life that they are predetermining. So I'm just gonna have to keep advising people to keep looking for the glitches in the matrix and to dig deeper and to not only accept suffering, but accept that maybe you can bring some to these pieces of shit. Because there are human beings behind every little thing that's going on with us. You know, they are using technology to dig into our minds and to harm us in very many subtle, insidious ways. But ultimately, there are people and individuals behind this, and there are ways to get back at your handlers. I've explained that in some previous uploads. But people, by and large, are being assimilated and conditioned into this, and their minds are being so heavily manipulated and interfered with that it's just not organic human life anymore. This is not at all what nature intended. All of this was destined to occur, but it's certainly not what nature intended. And as our eyes open, we're going to see more and more examples of our own will and determination coming out. I seem to think this will drive the warrior out of many people at a certain point, and they will have to just reach to the light and seek inspiration that they're not granted from the world around them. I believe that there will also be whistleblowers that perhaps know a thing or two about the world, that got hoovered into knowing too many things, that on the way out the door want to do the right thing. So I seem to think that's a trend that will happen more often as we notice that the world is experiencing a downward trajectory and ill effects from this type of interference and lifestyle change. You know, it's basically a shedding of the old way of the world into a new earth. It's just never going to be explained to us. It is never going to be instilled in us that we reach for that spiritual meaning. There's a lot of things that I and other people on this planet could prove, and there are certainly things that I have proved. As far as proving that we are telepathically communicating and proving that we are being handled and harassed, that is something that I figured out how to do several years ago, and I would urge that you download Skewy. But you know, there's all types of other things happening to indicate that we're not in Kansas anymore. You know, most days it does feel like we are on planet Mars, and it's just a rehearsal, a staged, orchestrated rehearsal of planet Earth, with all actors that are bad and that are backwards. That's how it feels and seems to me. I've just embraced the idea that we're living on a prison planet full of people that are not people, guided by pure evil, and that there's a spiritual phenomenon occurring in the background that will ultimately lead to a spiritual revolution, you know, on or before the end of times, I guess. There's no way to really point this out to the average person. They are programmed and manipulated to either gaslight or just not indulge anything of truth or relevance. They are surface level simulation characters, basically. That's a sad thing to think, but there's many people in my midst, many people that I thought I knew, that are basically at this point simulation characters. You know, the real world that never gets spoken of, that is the world that I'm living for and that I'm living in. I go to work. Other than that, I live in an otherworldly realm that has changed dramatically and is peppered with evil, and there's going to be worsening misfortunes over time that are just never connected. The orchestrators of our misery, they are quite genius. They are evil geniuses that have had a lot of time to sit and reflect and ponder and plan things. You know, their psychology is quite complex. But them as people, they are not complex. They are very simple-minded, very sophomoric, and very demoralizing individuals. They are sociopathic narcissists who have tendencies that border on psychopath. You know, I've learned a lot deep down during this time period that I've never really shared out loud. But there are many institutions that house evil men that have too much power and control, and they're quite drunk with it, and they're consumed with evil. It's just a way of the world shift that none of us needed, but I suppose it was destined to occur given, you know, prophecies and things that I know about how this whole thing began and how it even got planned. You know, nothing happens by mistake, but we're all set to endure suffering and calamities in our lifetimes. It's just destined to occur whenever you have individuals with too much control who really don't like high vibration and hate to see original creative thinkers on this planet. There's certainly a genocide of people like me, high vibration sentient people. You know, whenever you're thinking about something like a new world order, our creativity and our well-being and our emotional health is not very important to a sick, sadistic, cruel dictator. They're simply wanting to have control over people, and they have control over them easily. They just don't have control over me easily, because I live to point out these flaws, and I love to prove a point. So I think I'm going to keep trying to do this and hopefully inspire some other people to look around at their environments, because the city where I'm in is not the only city that's like this city. I seem to think there's much better places to live throughout the world that are not as controlled by these evil motherfuckers. But I digress. This is a global phenomenon. I've determined that. I've actually networked and reached not just deep down, but out loud with several people throughout the world in different countries, like Australia and the UK, and they definitely have pointed to this type of phenomenon happening in their arena, and they are sentient people like me. So it doesn't take much to figure out that, yeah, if you're a good person, you're probably getting fucked over during this time period, or perhaps just started experiencing the ill effects of this type of thing. But yeah, take it as a compliment. That's what I do. But my handlers and the perpetrators that interfere with my life, they really like me a lot, but they also hate me at the same time, which I just take as a compliment. You guys are jealous haters. You'll never encourage anybody's success or wish anybody well. So I don't take it personally. I take it as a sign I'm doing the right thing, and I'll keep at it, motherfuckers. But anyway, I just thought I would film that quick little point, and I wish you guys well. Peace.